First, let me compliment and thank Senator Warner for her comments. Senator Warren has brought up a lot of issues that I can relate to because our states share the Atlantic Ocean. And we talk about climate refugees around the world. We're starting to see those in our own states as sea levels are rising, dead zones in the ocean, in our bays, and we need to take action in order to protect our people. In my state of Maryland, you can see this firsthand, the effects of sea level rises. You can go to Smith Island. Smith Island is a habitable island in the Chesapeake Bay that's home to many of our watermen who have been practicing their professions for many, many years. They're at risk. You need a boat to get from one of the towns to the other. The Smith Island only has a couple hundred remaining residents, but they're losing their land daily as they fight to counter the rising sea level change. I think that's a very visible sign of what we're up against and the urgency of dealing with climate change. I am so proud to be identified with the Climate Action Task Force. You've mentioned a lot of the leaders, and I thank Senator Schatz and Senator Whitehouse for organizing this opportunity for us to put a spotlight on climate change and the need for urgent action. I thank Senator Boxer, the chair of the Environment and Public Works Committee, for her extraordinary leadership. And throughout last night and to this morning, we have highlighted the science, which is indisputable, as to the fact that over millions of years we've seen catastrophic changes on our own planet. But because of our activities, and it's the first time in the history of our planet, because of what we're doing on Earth, within a very short period of time, just hundreds of years, and less than that now, we are causing a catastrophic impact on our climate. And it is urgent. We've seen firsthand the impacts of climate change. Mr. President, I was in China last year, in Beijing. I was there 3 days. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, but I never saw the sun because of the pollution that's in the air, their carbon emissions. We've seen the cost of climate change in lives and in dollars we spend to try to adapt to the new realities of extreme weather conditions. So let me just use the few moments I have to talk about these issues closer to home in my own state of Maryland. 70% of Maryland's population lives in coastal zones. There's now predicted by the Maryland Climate Change Commission that we'll see a 1.4-foot increase in the sea level by 2050 and 3.7 feet by the end of this century. That's going to have dramatic impact on many Marylanders who live in this coastal area. I could give you another example. Ocean City, Maryland is a popular place for Marylanders and people from outside our state to enjoy the beautiful beaches. And I must tell you, I'm very proud that this Congress has appropriated millions of dollars for beach renourishment. Those dollars have returned multiple times because of it preventing the full force of these northeasterner storms that are more frequent and more severe in Maryland and along the Maryland coast. But there's a limit as to what we can do if we don't take action to deal with the sources of climate change. We want to protect our property owners, and the best way to protect our property owners is to do something about the causes of climate change. We saw the impact of Sandy along the east coast of the United States, and I know that the most severe impact was in New Jersey and New York. But in Maryland, we saw in Crisfield, Maryland, the full effect of Sandy. The people there know that they're at risk because of the severe storms that are becoming more frequent and more severe. The Chesapeake Bay itself is at risk. I've talked on the floor many times about the importance of the Chesapeake Bay, and it's a national treasure, and it's important from the fact that it's the largest estuary in our hemisphere. It's important because of its coastlines and its impact. But it's important also because of its impact on our economy. The blue crab, the oysters are critically important to Maryland, and yet they're at risk. The blue crab's a little complicated, but we know one of the factors that's affecting the blue crabs is the ability of juvenile crabs to be able to survive in seagrasses. And yet the seagrass population is declining because of temperature rise in the Chesapeake Bay. That's just one example of the challenges we have because of climate change. It's affecting the economy of my state. It's affecting the economy of our country. Port of Baltimore is the largest single economic factor creating jobs in our community, and that Port of Baltimore depends upon a stable coastal climate. The tourism industry is directly affected. People love to come to our state to hunt and fish. One of the most valuable assets we have along the bay is the Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge. Presiding officers heard me talk about it frequently in the Environment and Public Works Committee. The bald eagles have returned to Blackwater. It's an incredible sight. People go there just to see the beauty of nature and to visit our wildlife and our waterfowl. Well, Blackwater is at risk. It's important for tourism. It's important for our environment. It's also the land on which Harriet Tubman conducted the Underground Railroad. So it's got a lot of significance. And yet, between 1938 and 2006, we lost 5,000 acres of marshland to open water. 5,000 acres. Now, that's accelerating. It's not slowing down. And if we don't reverse the impacts of climate change, we're going to see more dramatic impact on those types of Maryland and national treasures. But let me also mention the fact that, of course, this is a federal legislature, and we should be concerned about the federal facilities as well. In Maryland, we have Pax River, which does incredibly important work for our Navy and the research and flight testing on the coast of our state, at risk by sea level rising. I serve on the Board of Visitors at the Naval Academy, and I can tell you, I have visited the Naval Academy when it's been flooded because of storms. It's actually it's a little below sea level at some of its locations. The rising sea level jeopardizes that iconic institution that's so important to our national defense. The Aberdeen Proving Grounds, also located on our coast, does critical work on national security. All these facilities, Mr. President, are being jeopardized because of the climate change that is occurring in our community. So let me just talk a little bit about some good news here. Some good news. We can reverse what has happened. We can slow down the effects. We can change the course that we are on. We've already done a significant amount, and I congratulate President Obama and his policies because he's taken on the major areas that deal with climate change. And yes, the United States has to lead internationally, but it starts with action right here in the United States. We got to lead by example. Other countries are far ahead of us. We've got to join with other countries to produce a strategy that works because our environment does not end at our borders. So we have to work internationally, but first we have to work at home. So what has President Obama done? He's taken on the transportation sector, one of the greatest uses of carbon fuels, with our CAFE standards, our efficiency on our automobiles. And we now have standards that would lead to up to 54.5 miles per gallon by 2025. That's ambitious. They said we couldn't do it before, but we did it, and we met those standards, and we will meet these standards. And we will significantly reduce the amount of fuels that we need to fuel our transportation in this country. We're investing in transit facilities. That reduces our carbon footprint. High-speed rail reduces our carbon footprint. We're committed to those types of solutions that are common sense to help our environment. the regulation of carbon pollution under the Clean Air Act. The Obama administration is moving forward on that, recognizing that the energy sector can help reduce our carbon footprint substantially. Senator Warren was absolutely correct. We don't have a level playing field today. We subsidize the fossil fuels, we don't the renewable fuels. We can expand our renewable energy sources. And quite frankly, we're showing innovation among all of our stakeholders. Buildings generate a lot of energy, use a lot of energy, and generate a lot of carbon. LEED certified facilities. The federal government is leading in the LEED certification, as is the private sector, in doing things that are much more energy efficient in the building sector. So therefore, in transportation and buildings and generation of electricity, all those areas, we have seen progress in reducing our carbon footprint, which will help the people in Smith Island by reducing the sea level changes. The presiding officer and I saw firsthand the impact of the glacier melts when we were in Greenland. I thank Senator Boxer for arranging that opportunity. We saw very visually the glacier melts and how much has occurred in a very short period of time. We can reverse that by showing leadership in transportation and the way that we use our buildings and the way that we generate electricity. We can work together with the international community. And the good news here, Mr. President, the good news, the solutions for dealing with climate change will help our national security, less imported fossil fuels. We want to get to zero need for imported energy in this country. We can get that. And we now know the threats that are made from Russia to Ukraine to the Middle East. We can eliminate that threat from our national security. We can create more jobs. Green energy will give us more jobs in the fossil fuel industry, and we need good-paying jobs. And we can leave our children and grandchildren a cleaner planet and a better future. That's what's at stake here, and that's why we've taken this time. And I'm proud to be identified with so many that have spoken on this issue.